Welcome. Welcome to today's meeting of the Licensing and Protection Committee, which will be streamed on the Council's YouTube pages. I would like to take this opportunity to outline a few housekeeping arrangements. If you wish to speak, please indicate that you wish to do so to the Chair or the Vice Chair. If you wish to speak, please press the middle button, which will turn green, and then again when you have finished. You will know that the microphone has gone live as it will light up red at the top. Please ensure that you use your microphone at all times so this is picked up on the live stream. So now I'll start with apologies. Are there any apologies, Claire?
Apologies from Councillor Clark and Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you. We start number 1, minutes of the previous meeting. Are you all in agreement that I sign the minutes of the previous meeting which have been circulated, those being on the 28th of September 2022? Thank you. I will now sign these a correct record. Please bear with me while I do this. Thank you. Members' interests. Do members have any interest to declare? Thank you. Number 3, monitoring report on the delivery of the Food Law Enforcement and Health and Safety Services action plans. I would like to invite Claudia Deeth and Kate Penn. Well, I don't think Claudia's here, is she? No. So I'd like to Kate Penn to introduce the monitoring report on the delivery of the Food Law Enforcement and Health and Safety Service action plans.
Thank you. So this is the report for Q2 of the Food Safety and Health and Safety Service Plans. So in the second quarter, we've been continuing the service plans in line with the Food Standards Agency Recovery Plan, which determines that new businesses and highest risk businesses must be inspected first. So in this quarter, we moved on to Category C businesses that were less than broadly compliant. At the end of the quarter, we had 6 that remained outstanding for inspection, but they have now been inspected in Q3. In total, we did 191 inspections in Q2, which brings us to a total of 315 inspections through the year, which is moving towards our target. We're still receiving a high number of new business registrations. I should explain, this includes businesses changing hands, so a new business operator taking over, or it could be an entirely new business starting up. There's a small number of businesses that are registering, but are actually never starting to trade, so they are registered but then closed off before they're inspected. So in Q2, there were actually 78 new business registrations, of which 71 still remain open and will be inspected. As I reported in last quarter, officers are still finding that standards have declined. I think this is because the gap in inspections during the pandemic, and that means it's having an impact on inspection times. And also, we're seeing, sadly, an impact on the cost of living. We're finding that businesses are perhaps turning down the temperature on their boilers, which is saving them money, but unfortunately conflicts with necessary legislation to have hot running water. But we're doing all we can to support them, along with our economic development team, to give them any help they can in running their business. We took 1 voluntary closure in Q2. This was where an inspection took place and the food business operator agreed with the inspecting officer that a health risk condition existed, and the business would close basically until that condition was removed. In this case, it happened on a Friday, the work was done, the remedial work took place over the weekend, and the business has since reopened, but it does mean that some formal action has been taken in this quarter against the food business operator. In Appendix 1, you will note that the alternative enforcement strategy is still shown at red. This, again, isn't an immediate concern as they are our lowest risk premises and they don't actually form part of the Food Standards Agency recovery plan. But as we are moving forward in this quarter, we are looking at how next year we're going to tackle getting the alternative enforcement out to them, which is probably going to be a questionnaire So Appendix 2 also refers to the number of unplanned and reactive visits undertaken. This is generally around complaints and service requests. We've received 105 in the second quarter, which is slightly less than anticipated based on previous years, but still gives us plenty to be getting on with. Officers are also continuing to take part in the UK HSA sampling study, which has been takeaway sandwiches and salad bars. So we've been doing a combination of sampling sandwich fillings, surfaces on chopping boards and worktops. When the results haven't been satisfactory, we've then been doing some sort of coaching with the business to improve what they can do and then resampling to check that things have improved. So I now move on to health and safety. Quarter 2, again, most of our work was concentrated around the Safety Advisory Group, which is a body set up to provide information and guidance to event organisers. And throughout the summer, we undertook a number of visits to events, so sort of pre-opening checks to go through with event organisers, police, fire, ambulance, all of licensing as well, all of the agencies together just to check everything was as it should be and any last minute advice, and that was really well received. We've also investigated 6 accidents and a number of other service requests, and this again covers a whole range of things. So it might be a contact from a member of the public, it could be a new skin piercing registration that we need to check before we can issue the certificate, or a notification of defective lifting equipment, which again is something that we would go out to check the matter's been resolved. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. As any members wish to ask questions or make any comments?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Go back to 5.1.5. Do we know how long these inspection times are?
So yeah, officers record times for inspections, and it can range from half an hour from a small corner shop or something like that, or it could be as much as 2.5 hours for a larger premises, perhaps a pub or somewhere where there are a lot of issues that need to be talked about or discussed with the food business operator. So it can vary considerably, but we do record time on that.
And just to follow up, and how are your staffing levels for carrying out this sort of work?
We have got one person on long-term leave at the moment, but other than that, in the food and health safety side of things, we're fully staffed. Other areas of environmental health, we aren't at the moment.
Thank you. Andy Jennings, Councillor Alan Jennings.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question on 5.1.6. It refers to the formal action being taken against the FBO as in the form of a simple caution with a capital S, capital C. Is that what's the effect of that simple caution? What is it a defined sanction that's been put against the FBO?
Yep. So it's a formal sanction in that they are accepting that we could have prosecuted them for the offence, but we've looked at all the circumstances of it, and actually the food business operator is accepting that yes, what they did was wrong, and that if we go there again and found a similar position, then we would use that as evidence in future.
Councillor Mars Patel.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask, what is the total number of business premises that we inspect in the district? How many do we have in the district?
So on the 1st of April 2022, we had 1,721 food businesses registered. I think when I looked this week, it's 1,700 and something. So we give or take a few when they open and close, but at the moment that's almost a daily occurrence. So,
Chair, if I could just ask another. I didn't quite hear your answer about how many officers we have for inspecting. How many do you have? You said you had one off sick.
Yep. So we have, I think it's 4.8 full-time equivalent, and we've got one full-time equivalent off sick at the moment.
Yes, Councillor Stevenson.
Ferguson almost.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So it's more of an observation than a question, but I'll frame it as a question. So I had the benefit of a briefing on this from Kate, who gave me a very extensive briefing. But reading through the report again this morning, I realised how much of what you do is governed by the Food Standards Agency's recovery plan. And I think perhaps going forward with this report, it might be helpful to include that plan. There's quite a nice flowchart I found online, because basically what that is, during the pandemic, there was a large. Well, firstly, it was difficult to do inspections because lots of places were shut. There's lots of new food businesses, lots of old foods businesses either went out of business or changed hands as well. And so the Food Standards Agency put together a recovery plan that dictates basically which sorts of businesses we have to uh, investigate when. And I think having that there, and also so basically, so it started in September 2021 and will run till the end of March 23, and so we're about halfway through it actually. And the point of it is that we spend our resources investigating the highest risk uh, businesses first, so ones that have got previous histories of poor hygiene or ones that deal with particularly vulnerable members of the community, like elderly people. So we have category A ones, which are the highest risk, category B ones, and category C. And I think the aim for the end of September was we would have reviewed all the category. We've done all the category A, done all the category Bs. We were supposed to have done the category Cs. We didn't quite. There were 6 that went over to this quarter, but they've all been done now. So actually, we're on track with that. But could you just give us a quick explanation of what category A, category B, and category C actually mean, and a category D if you're feeling?
Yep. So our category A premises are the highest risk ones, but that may be determined by the fact that they serve a vulnerable customer. So it may be like a care home, or it could be a manufacturing business that does high risk food. Category B, again, is still high risk, but not quite as high. So it may be a premises that does a particular specialist cooking technique like sous vide or something like that, that just heightens the risk to their customer. And that's why they fall into that category. And C's, I would say, are most of our sort of pubs, restaurants, that sort of business. And category D are our highest rated, so our businesses that have got a good history in terms of like the pubs and restaurants, and also like the corner shops and convenience stores where it's all closed, pre-packed food.
So the question, could you please include those definitions and the kind of flowchart in the report? Because I think it would make it a lot easier going forward. Because, for example, it's easy to think category A is an excellent category, when in fact it's the highest risk as well. And I'm slightly disappointed to hear that you think that sous vide is a high risk cooking technique. Don't let my wife know, because otherwise she'll never eat any of my cooking ever again.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely, if I pop that in the next report, like a short explanation of each category and how that fits in with the flowchart, will do.
I apologise to Councillor Ferguson. Is there any other councillor wish to speak? Yes, certainly.
Sorry,
Councillor Jordan.
my one's on the appendix 1. You explained about the alternative enforcement strategy and what that first area that's red. It's the one down below, other proactive visits, food, water. That's red. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, please, just for clarification? Thank you.
Yep, I can do. This is something that we actually discussed in the briefing earlier this week with Councillor Ferguson. I think I've said that's red. I think it's actually probably closer to amber. It's just where we've done proactive visits, and a lot of that is based on what time we've got available when we're trying to do the inspection program as well. So it's where we're going to do the sampling in line with the UK HSA sampling programme. Would consider that to be a proactive visit because it's additional work that's not part of the normal inspection programme. But that's obviously driven by our resource availability, and also, you know, things like sandwich bars. We've only got a finite number of sandwich bars we can go to and sample, so there's a limit on that sort of thing, what we can do.
Thank you very much for that, Officer. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm looking at paragraph 513. Quarter 2, there were 78 new businesses and 71 of those remain open. I mean, obviously, the interest of this service is health and hygiene, etc., which I perfectly understand. But during recovery from the pandemic, obviously, um, new businesses need to be encouraged because of delivering services for the public and economic development. So I just wonder, when these businesses register, are we as a council, as a whole, engaging with them to see if there's anything else we can do to support them as businesses, not just through this service?
So at the moment we engage with them through the inspection program. We would have a conversation with them when we go out there. If they need any support, we can advise what our economic development team can do and put them in contact. We don't sort of have, when they register, we don't have a sort of letter that goes out to them or anything. It's more when they actually meet an officer, they can talk about it then. And any follow-up letters, we are now just recently starting to include a paragraph that says if you want to talk about your business, this is where you can go to.
Good, that's very welcome, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. Is there anybody else wish to make any comment? I'd like to make one observation. 5.21. Over the summer period, there was some complaints from residents regarding the noise in the villages with the events that were going on. Have we? Is there any conclusion that we've come to on that, please?
We're probably doesn't come under the sort of agenda for this meeting in terms of the health and safety work, but happy to have a discussion outside if you want to. That's probably best.
Thank you for that. Sorry about that. As there's nothing else, we'll move on to number 4, suspension and revocation of Hackney carriage and private hire licenses, decisions under delegated authority. I would like to invite Michelle Bishop, Licensing Manager, to introduce this report. Please, in asking questions, please remember that we are in public session, so please keep the questions of a general nature. If you require more detailed response, please request further information outside the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Regarding this report, so it covers the last 3-month period, taking us up to sort of towards the end of November. As you can see from the list at section 2.1, we've had 11 vehicles either suspended or revoked, and we've had 3 drivers, again, that have either been suspended or revoked. You'll notice from the report, obviously, date-wise, 27th of October, there was a revocation there with immediate effect. Just to explain a little bit about that, without obviously, as I said, I can't go into too much detail, but obviously the difference being is when we suspend a driver or vehicle, or we revoke a driver or vehicle, we can actually add a caveat in there to do it with immediate effect. So if we believe there is a danger to the public, then obviously we can put a ban on them. So they still can go to an appeal with the magistrates court, but it means they cannot drive the vehicle during that period of time. Okay, a normal suspension or revocation allows them to carry on driving during that period. So sometimes we need to make that decision, and as you'll see on that particular occasion, obviously we once myself and Claudia had obviously discussed that. Decision was made by officer. Then obviously we discussed it with yourself and Claire as chair and vice chair, as per the delegation. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of background on that one. And I think also, if I can just sort of give you an update on the vehicle side of things. So obviously, some of the reasons. So if we go to the first one on the 16th of September, you'll see that was suspended due to a failure at the garage for dangerous defects. So that would have been picked up during its annual inspection, and it was deemed that it was unsafe. So therefore, obviously, we removed it from the road with immediate effect. If there's small things, then obviously an advisory will be given, because just to sort of as a reminder again, there we've got obviously a standard for MOT, and then there's also a compliance standard which is slightly above an MOT, because it is carrying the public and passengers around. So obviously we need to make sure that safety element is paramount. So again, we'll always make those decisions. Moving on within the report, so section 3.2, as you can see, we've got a potential hearing coming up at Magistrates Court and an appeal. We haven't received anything official yet. We have received emails from various solicitors, but nothing from the courts as of yet. But being honest, there is a bit of a backlog at court, so it may turn up in the new year. But again, I'll keep you updated and obviously future reports on that. And obviously any outcomes that I can provide you on that. So apart from that concludes my report, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Michelle Bishop. Is there any questions that the committee would like to ask or observations? Yes, Andy Jennings.
Just for my ignorance, what does CLPD stand for?
It's common law police disclosure. So it's where the police have potentially arrested somebody and they then disclose their job role and therefore they believe that it's important they get it to us. So it's kind of a disclosure to us. And therefore it's something that we can act on because again they might not have been necessarily charged with that offence, but they've been arrested and there's kind of ongoing investigation. So at that point we will make a decision whether we suspend or revoke a driver, depending on the outcome of that. So okay.
Thank you, Officer Bishop, for that. Is there any more questions? No. So we'll move on to number 5, licensing and protection subcommittees. I would like to draw your attention to the report on pages 21 of your agenda, which details the outcomes of the meetings of the licensing and protection subcommittees, which have been held since the last meeting. As you will see, there has been one meeting. Are members happy to note this information? Thank you very much. Well, as closing the meeting, I'd like to thank you for your attendance. I'm very pleased to see everybody here. And that's the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.